Part 7 of the video series contains several corrections for wording used in the original 2013 audio recording, as well as some additional information on topics where there have been significant developments since 2013. As a historian, I am always concerned about the accuracy of information I present, and this is simply an attempt to ensure that correct and complete information is provided in my videos. Part 1. When I mentioned Ontario and Quebec in the discussion about the changes in government in the 1840s and 1850s, I actually meant Canada West and Canada East, which is what these two entities were called from 1841 until Confederation in 1867. Also, Robert Baldwin became Premier of Canada West, along with his friend Hippolyte Lafontaine, who was Premier of Canada East. They had worked together to win the landslide for the Reform Party in 1848. Under the topic of the Great Ministry, I misspoke regarding the Education Act, actually using the previous Elections Act twice before getting it right. Part 2. At the time of the 2013 presentation, the information I had about the breakaway was that the second man who died in Lewis Shearer's sawmill was John Harrington. A few years later, work by other researchers proved that John Harrington had moved to Michigan and was not the one who died in the breakaway. Further research determined that the man who died was Joseph Harrington, a brother of John. His wife moved to Michigan with her family after the tragedy, which is partly why we have little information for this family in the community. A second presentation I did about the breakaway included a mea culpa regarding the right people in the story. During the introduction of the Toby book, I used the name Wilmot Toby for the originator of the book. However, later research would establish that his full name was Wilmot Maxwell Toby, and that he went by the name Maxwell. So, the name should be Maxwell Toby. Part 3. In the piece about James Nesbitt, I missed the important word first in the sentence, James Nesbitt arrived at Brighton a passenger in this first GTR train running from Montreal to Toronto on the 4th day of November 1856. The situation at Memory Junction Museum has changed dramatically since 2013. In fact, the property has been sold to Coles Timber Mart, which is located nearby on Ontario Street. They are using open spaces on the property for storage of building products and parking vehicles. In early April, a fence started to take shape, and information came to me that the remaining railway cars have been sold and will be removed soon. They are keeping a caboose on site, along with the car shed and, of course, the old station. I am told that the station will be preserved and upgraded and repurposed to support the business. So, Memory Junction Museum is no longer with us. Ralph Bangay passed away recently, and the whole community mourned the loss of this unique character and the wonderful historical and tourist destination that he and his family created and maintained for a good long time. We can only say, thanks, Ralph. Part 4. While discussing exports from Brighton, I stated that all these products went across the lake as exports. That was a bit of an exaggeration. Certainly most of the wood products went across the lake, with the exception of the railroad ties which were used locally because the Grand Trunk Railway was being built. In addition, there was routine traffic and products with major centers from Toronto to Kingston. The point is that export trade was proportionally very large during the 1850s. During the high water summer of 2017, a large old timber floated to shore near the yacht club at Gosport. The timber made its way to Hilton Hall Heritage Center and ended up on the grounds of Proctor House Museum, where it is on display with a plaque on the lawn beside the sidewalk into the house. It is thought that this timber may be from John Nix's original wharf that was built to the east end of Price Street in 1841. At the time of this presentation in 2013, the bulk of available information about wharfs dealt with the two main ones, Proctor's and Quick's. Subsequently, more information came to light regarding the two smaller wharfs at the end of Baldwin Street in Gosport. At least it became clear that wharfs, or a wharf of some sort, remained in place in this area well into the 1900s. Later in the 1800s, grain elevators were built along Bay Street near a wharf, and there was a steady traffic in coal, flour, grain, and lumber well into the 1900s. Part 5. In August 2013, when this presentation was done, the plan for telling the story of Dr. King was in early stages. Roger McMurray had decided to donate his collection of King artifacts to Proctor House Museum, and it was hoped we could incorporate a ceremony to highlight that generous donation in the context of a public event where I would tell the full story of the murder and hanging. Soon after the August event, I realized that I needed to do serious research to uncover the real story. Many documents were found, and that allowed me to tell the story in a much more accurate and detailed way. On Thursday, February 20th, 2014, I told the story and Roger donated the artifacts. After the story was so well received, I went on to write the book Murder in the Family, the Dr. King Story, which was published in June 2015. One small detail that I was able to correct in the later stages of my research was when Dr. King began to practice medicine in Brighton. In fact, he came back to Brighton after graduating from medical college in Philadelphia in the spring of 1858. He practiced medicine only a few months in Brighton before he met Melinda and proceeded to eliminate his wife from the picture. In the part about Hilton Township Hall, I mistakenly said township instead of Township Hall when illustrating the location of the small wedge of land on the segment of map. The route of number 30 highway through Hilton changed in 1930 when a major upgrade of the highway was undertaken, partly as a make-work project during the Depression. The road was pushed directly north across the concession road at Hilton, which eliminated the jog in the road for drivers of those newfangled automobiles who always wanted to go faster. The jog in the road in front of the Codrington store was also eliminated at this time. The Hilton Township Hall was made into a heritage center in 2014 and hosted many events related to local history over the next several years. Dot Conley was a major force in organizing events, and when she left the area due to health issues, events gradually ended. Brighton Digital Archives came out of the group of folks who supported Hilton Hall Heritage Center, and they used the hall for events and meetings, but then as that group evolved, work became more digital in nature, and the hall was not used for events related to archives. The Song Circle used the hall until recently, and now it is only used occasionally. That's all the corrections and additions I have identified at this point, but I encourage everyone to feel free to contact me with corrections or new information related to the issues discussed in the videos. I always welcome feedback of any kind. Thanks for listening and watching.